All right, guys, welcome back to Keeping Up with the X-Men, and I am back on Generation X. This is issue 8. This cover is really, really cool. And that's about it when it comes to the cover. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like I said, I left X-Men for a while, and I'm paying for it coming back into some of these things. Because while I remember bits and pieces of what was going on with Wolverine and the X-Men, which I believe is where a good portion of these characters come from, I don't remember all of it. And because of that, or rather, because I didn't really follow it, I picked up a book here and picked up a book there, and I was mostly more interested at the time when I came back in with just the all-new X-Men, and that was about it. It was about the only run that I was following, and I fell behind massively in a lot of the other stuff. But this story, let's go ahead and get into this, what was going on here. We open up with iGuy and Nature Girl watching Shogo, and this scene was pretty sweet. It's pretty ridiculous. iBoy is, he's worried. Because, look, here's the thing. Shogo is playing with grizzly bears, and Nature Girl doesn't seem to have a problem with this in the least. Like, not in the least. Now, these two characters, I kind of know iBoy. I don't remember Nature Girl, but I just thought this was kind of crazy, this scene in general. Not that it really means anything. In fact, a lot of this, without giving away too much, this book I'm noticing is really tough to talk about because it is almost 100% character development. It's not about the battles or anything like that. It's not about the adventure and what's going on. So it's a very slow build to the things that happen to be taking place. Like, we open up, it's kind of funny, Shogo's playing with bears, and then we immediately jump to the Xavier Institute where Bling is being canceled by Husk. Now, Husk was originally a member of the X-Men, and I'm not going to get too deep into what was going on, but she was a member of the X-Men that no longer is a member of the X-Men because the lifestyle of it was too stressful, and it almost cost her her life on a couple different occasions, and she finally walked away from it. Well, she's become a psychiatrist, and what's interesting about that is she tries to tell Bling, because Bling is like, my only life choice is being an X-Man, and she's like, actually, there are choices after being an X-Men. I am a psychiatrist. She's like, there are other things that you can do. And the lifestyle that you're choosing to do, if you're not ready for it, if you're not built for it, and not everybody is, this is going to tear you apart. You're not going to survive it. And you're going to wish that you'd have walked away way sooner than you did. Trust me, I'm somebody that knows this. Now, at the same time, Jubilee comes, or rather Jubilee's in the waiting room with the other dude, the boyfriend guy who I told you last time. I'm not sure who that is yet. And they come out, and then Bling kind of walks away. Jubilee thanks her for helping, and they mention something at this point. She says, why didn't you tell me about Monette? And then she says, because you're here to do therapist-y things. And she says, but it's Monette. And she's like, yeah, and Jono and I will save her. Now, at this point, it jumps us to the underground in the sewers. And I think this is Monette. Now, I didn't bother looking this up. I probably should have. But like I said, I'm the kind of person who, unless the character appears 3 or 4 times and I'm just completely lost and I can't figure it out, I don't like to read a bunch of Wikipedia like backgrounds. What I like to do is I like to bring myself into the universe and learn about it as I'm going. And if this Monette appears, if the name appears a couple more times, I will go back and look up small portions of her history. But like currently, I'm in the backlogs right now where I'm reading the original X-Men books. Just to recap, really, I've read those before. But I'm also reading X Factor, which, believe it or not, as far as I ever got into X Factor was Marvel Essentials Volume 1 and 2, and that was it. So I never went any further. I'm also reading past issue 80 of the Ultimate X-Men, because I never went past that. So I'm doing the backlog stuff in real time. I'm reading it to learn it for myself because, as I said before, I am not an expert. I'm here to review all of these books as I enjoy the X-Men immensely, but I am not an expert. I was not buying books for myself when I was a kid, so I only got what I got. And then when I got old enough to buy books, I was, for a very long time, not working the greatest job, McDonald's, and I only had enough money to do what I could do because I've been on my own since before I even left high school. So that's what I'm getting at. I've always had a job, and I've always done this, and I've always paid my own rent, and I take care of my stuff before I take care of this stuff, and I will not download these things digitally. I pay for them. I support the industry. I try to follow the correct way to do this stuff. And because of that, reading the backlog can take me some time. I'm catching up, I'm figuring it out, but I don't like too much secondhand information. So like I said, if I figure it out, I'll let you know. Now, they do also talk about this, though. Basically what's going on is, like I said, we cut down to the sewers, and this woman is feeding on Morlocks. She's killing them and then taking their life energy into herself, and that, I believe, gives her the ability to stay in this plane of existence, and she's pretty creepy. Now, she talks to her hand, and she actually makes reference, like talking directly to her hand. Her hand seems to talk to her, and she talks to her hand, and she refers to the hand as implate. I'm believing that this is some sort of creature or something that is bonded with her, and maybe it happened during the whole Inhumans thing. I don't know. Basically, it wants to feed on more powerful people, like it wants to go after X-Men and things like that, powerful mutants. And she's like, no, we're not going to do that because it's just going to end bad for us. I have a better idea that's going to keep us in this universe for a long time. And then we cut back to the Xavier Institute. At the Xavier Institute, Nathan and Ben are in the room talking, and for some reason, Nathan is looking over at Quinn. Quinn is Kid Omega, and I don't know a lot about him, but I do know that Ben is Morph. I did figure that one out when I got to this book. In the first one that I reviewed, I said that I didn't really know the kid. He's Morph. That's who he's supposed to be. So, yeah. Well, regardless, okay. They're sitting there and looking out at Quinn, and one is kind of admiring him. The other is kind of jealous that he doesn't have the 12-pack and everything, too. And he's like, guy doesn't even work out. It's bogus. He's like, he looks like that. I don't look like that. And then there's a big boom, and the whole world starts shaking. We're talking big earthquake crap starts happening. And what ends up going on is that the earthquake is Krakoa. Krakoa rises from the ground. And I don't know exactly what happened here, but Quinn has something to do with it. Krakoa came to see Quinn, and Quinn tells him, hey, I told you to wait and that I would be back. And he's like, what? I was like, what? Because now I'm really, really wondering what happened. At this point, Kitty shows up and tells him, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And they have a bit of an argument, nothing too big, but basically she's like, I can't believe that this just happened. Krakoa just literally dug through the bottom of New York to get to you, and it's causing problems. There's all kinds of cave-ins, buildings coming down, earthquakes, and things like that because Krakoa went across the underground of New York. And during all of this confusion and all of this madness, the museum that Jubilee, Bling, and the guy, I'm sorry, I still don't know his name, the museum that they were all in starts coming down. And he runs out the door, saving a couple people. He's told, hey, save them, we'll be fine. And of course, they weren't fine because while the X-Men are gathering up for superhero stuff, they're going to go out and they're going to start looking through the buildings and things like that. That's basically what Kitty tells everybody. We go back and we see that Bling is okay, but Jubilee is quite wounded. She's, I think she'll be fine, to be fair. She's vampire and everything like that, which also gets into some craziness. Jubilee was a mutant, for anybody that only has the knowledge from like the 90s series, and that's fine. Like I said, I'm not 100% caught up with the X-Men. I'm nowhere near an expert, but I'll tell you what I know about Jubilee just to go ahead and end this episode. From what I remember, Jubilee was, of course, a mutant, and then she lost her powers during that whole event where the Scarlet Witch said no more mutants. And then during that time, there was something that happened with Dracula and a bunch of vampires, and the son of Dracula bit Jubilee and turned her into a vampire, but she lives with the mutants because she considers herself a mutant. And there's an awful lot of people that have theories, which I agree with this theory completely. There's an awful lot of people whose theory is that that Jubilee is kind of the representation for gender identification and things of that nature, because Jubilee, without her powers as a human, still represented herself as a mutant. That's how she sees herself, regardless of the circumstances. Whether she be a vampire, whether she be a human, whether she be a mutant, she sees herself as a mutant. So I believe that's one of the major roles that they've been filling with Jubilee is self-identification, how you see yourself. And that goes into transgender society and things like that. If you are a male that sees yourself as a girl and things like that, gender identification, this is kind of your character. It kind of represents some of the things that you're going through, because she's not a mutant. She is legitimately different from them now, but that is how she sees herself, and that is how she chooses to live, and that's kind of how her character's been treated lately. Okay, we are nearing a 14-minute mark, and that's way more than enough to go over one book. I did the best I could, but as I said, I'm still getting used to Generation X. I will get better as I get more of these books under my belt. But so far, guys, that is all you needed to know. You are now all caught up with Generation X. Later on.